forget about it. The Israeli society had surrounded itself with shields, with walls, not only physical walls, but also mental walls. I'll just give the three principles which enable us Israelis to live so easily with this brutal reality. A, most of the Israelis, if not all of them, deeply believe that we are the chosen people. And if we are the chosen people, we have the right to do whatever we want. B, there were more brutal occupations in history. There were even longer occupations in history, even though the Israeli occupation gets to quite a nice record. But there was never in history an occupation in which the occupier presented himself as the victim. Not only the victim, the only victim around. This also enables any Israeli to live in peace because we are the victims. The other day, Professor Falk spoke about this dual strategy of Israel of being a victim on one hand and manipulating the other on the other hand.
Invitado a dar una charla para el lobby israelí en Washington, D.C., el renombrado y controversial periodista israelí GideonLevy expresó su preocupación sobre el potencial peligro del apoyo incondicional de Estados Unidos a Israel. Levy comparó los sistemas políticos israelí y estadounidense y destacó el contraste entre las cómodas vidas de los israelíes y la cruel vida de los palestinos bajo ocupación israelí. Una realidad que en su perspectiva la mayoría de los israelíes han decidido ignorar. Lo extraordinario de esta charla es que fue dada durante el confrontamiento del 2015. La advertencia de GideonLevy sobre las consecuencias de mantener el estado de apartheid sobre la población palestina la vemos hoy convertida en realidad.
Israeli authorities have given the Jewish Israeli population privilege over Palestinians in just about every facet of life. Palestinians are being forced off their land and out of their homes, separated and segregated by laws, walls and checkpoints. They live in a constant state of fear and insecurity and deliberately impoverished. The question is, does this all amount to the crime of apartheid?
When I realized that the biggest drama of Israel is taking place half an hour away from our homes, in our dark backyard, and we Israelis, most of us, if not all of us, do not want to know, do not know, and above all, do not care. And it took me many, many years to understand how come. Every catastrophe in the world, the Israelis are always the first one to send rescue teams with field hospitals. People with values. How come that this society lives for so many years with this drama in its backyard and feels so good about itself and has so little moral doubts, if at all. And the only hope is from this place, from Washington, from the United States, from the EU, only from there. Because the Israeli society is by far today too brainwashed. Life in Israel is by far too good. And Israel, let's face it, is a society which lives in denial, totally disconnected with reality. It lost connection with the reality in its backyard. It's totally lost connection with the international environment. Really to believe that 5 million Jews know better than 6 billion people of the world? Really believe that 5 million Jews will be able to continue to live on their sword forever? Really believing that in the 21st century it is acceptable to ignore the international law in such a way, to ignore the international institutions, and to rely only on the United States and Micronesia? And when I see conferences like here today, again, it gives me some hope that change might happen, because change will have to take place here. In Israel, it's a lost case. Forget about it. And here I get to the third set of values which enable us Israelis to live in peace with the occupation. And this is maybe the most crucial one and the worst one. We say victimization, we say chosen people, but the third set of values is the most dangerous one, and this is the systematic dehumanization of the Palestinians, which enable us Israelis to live in peace with everything, because if they are not human beings like us, then there is not really a question of human rights. Many years ago, I interviewed then candidate for Prime Minister, Ehud Barak. And I asked him a question which I try to ask in any occasion. Mr. Barak, what would have happened if you would have been born Palestinian? And Barak gave me then the only honest answer he could give me. He said I would have joined a terror organization. The last war in Gaza taught us also that Israel, which has 3 regimes today, maybe the only country, the only state in the world with 3 regimes, one for the Jews, one for the Arab citizens, and an apartheid regime in the West Bank and Gaza, one of the most brutal and cruel tyrannies in the world. But even for the facade, even for this democracy, which I always thought is a democracy for its Jewish citizens, I realized last summer that it is a democracy for its Jewish citizens, but only if they think like the majority.